Is the decimal place number going up?
We're live.
It's off.
We are live. Oh, I gotta give you copies of the bill. Mine.
It's all good. Well, we are live, so we're gonna get started. Yeah, this is Senate Natural Resources and Energy, and it is March 13th, and we have a new draft of S65. I'm sorry that I am not with you all in person today, but feeling under the weather, unfortunately. So, but I'm glad to be joining you remotely. So, hello, welcome, Ellen. Thank you. Um, yeah, want to walk us through this new draft?
Sure. Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel. I'm here today on S65, the committee's strike all amendment to S65. Today's draft is draft 4.3, dated March 13th at 8:43 a.m. The changes from yesterday's draft are highlighted in yellow. Some of them are what you all discussed with me yesterday regarding the clean heat standard changes, but then there are a couple other changes to the efficiency utility portion of the bill. So first, the first change is on page 5. So in the section on funding for the efficiency utilities, so supplemental funding. So the first subdivision here, A, is about the funds from the ISO New England sales for the forward capacity, and then there's new language added on line 12. So in delivering services with respect to heating systems using the revenue subject to the subdivision A, the entity shall give priority to incentives for the installation of high efficiency biomass heating systems and shall have a goal of offering an incentive that is equal to 25% of the installed cost of the system. Provision of an incentive under subdivision A for a biomass heating system shall not be contingent on the making of other energy efficiency improvements at the property in which the system will be installed. So this language is not new language. This is language that has existed in the statute previously, but in the rewrite of this was deleted, and so it's being put back here. Because as you recall, all of this section that's underlined was moved from the prior section to this new section, and so this was a piece that was left behind. Yeah, and they're re-added. So this is not new, it's not a new provision.
Question, which scale is the environment? Is it for industrial power generation or for heating?
So yeah, this would be for heating systems.
So if it was a home heating system?
Yeah. And this is because that's the funding here that we're talking about is for thermal efficiency projects.
Yeah.
So this is specifically providing for incentives for biomass efficient heating systems. All right, so then there's also language on page 7. And this is some new language. So at the bottom of page 7, this is language is being struck. Sorry, I didn't highlight it, but the first sentence starting on line 16, that should have also been highlighted. It's being struck and it's being replaced with this new sentence. So the commission shall establish an appropriate budget for the appointed entity using the efficiency fund. The commission shall consider all revenue sources established under subsections D3 and D4 onto page 8 of the section, and limitations on electric revenues established under subsection D2D when establishing the budget. In reviewing the appointed entity's proposed plans pursuant to D2B2, the commission shall review and approve a budget that is consistent with the principles of least cost integrated planning as defined in section 218C of this title, and demonstrate cost effectiveness using the commission's approved societal cost benefit test. So this is replacing some language in the prior sentence that had directed the commission to establish the efficiency charge to be consistent with the principle of least cost integrated planning. it's replacing that with this about cutting the budget. Consider all revenue sources. And then in reviewing, approve a budget that is consistent with the least cost integrated planning. Additionally, it goes on to say, as circumstances and programs evolve, the commission shall review the plan for unrealized energy efficiency potential and authorize adjustments as necessary in order to realize all reasonably available cost-effective energy savings. In a budget for the appointed entity using the efficiency fund, the commission shall prioritize the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions that seek to balance the other following objectives. And then it goes on to actually not add any objectives, but these are the ones that were already in the bill, and it just makes them into a numbered list. So the substantive changes are on the top of page 8 there.
So much clearer.
Great. So there's one other change in the efficiency utility section. It's on page 14. This is in the equity and justice section. So on page 14. So not less than 25% of the annual budget shall be targeted for residential services for customers with low to moderate income. Services shall include the provision of weatherization services and other efficiency measures for the purpose of reducing a household's total energy cost and total energy burden.
Senator Hardy, you feel like that's clearer?
Yeah, yes, I think that's clearer. I mean, and that gets to the point that was made yesterday of reducing the cost of energy for low income people and being explicit about it.
Yeah.
Right. So there are no other questions on the efficiency utility part. There are then changes in the clean heat section portion. So starting on page 19. So the new section 2 is a repeal of the entire chapter 94, which is the clean heat statute. Section 3 then adds a new section to Title 30 in the. I added it to the section on the commission's authority, but I guess it could probably go other places, but this is the heating fuel seller registry. So I didn't get a lot of direction from you all on how to draft this, so I took what was in the Clean Heat Standard and I made it a little more succinct, but so let me know if there's anything else that you would like to add to it. So starting on line 13 on page 19, each entity that sells heating fuel in Vermont shall register annually by June 30th of each year with the commission. Maybe it's redundant. Any entity that sells heating fuels in quantities of less than 5 gallons at a time. Sorry, to consumers shall not be required to register. Did you discuss changing that?
The bulk delivery.
Yeah, okay, sorry, okay. So it would read, so any entity that sells heating fuels.
Sells,
Go ahead.
oh, sells bulk heating fuels? Perhaps?
I think in line 13, any entity that sells heating fuel for bulk delivery.
Yeah, that's good.
And then you just cross out the other sentence.
Yep. Okay. The commission shall maintain and update annually the list of registered entities on its website. The commission shall require registration information to include. And so this is the list that was in the former Clean Heat Standard language, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to change any of it So the legal name, doing business as named, if applicable, municipality, state, types of heating fuel sold, and the exact amount of gallons of each type of heating fuel sold in the state for final consumption, for final sale or consumption in the state in the calendar year, onto page 20. Immediately preceding the calendar year, which the entity is registering with the commission, separated by fuel. That was purchased by the submitting entity and the name and location of the entity from which it was purchased.
Alan, can I interrupt there? Because I think we don't need the clause for final sale or consumption in the state. Because it's not about, it's just who sells, who's selling fuel in the state. It doesn't matter where it's going. Does that make sense? And in addition, I guess the remainder is okay. Other thoughts on that? Okay, let's keep going.
Each year, not later than 30 days following the annual registration deadline established by the commission shall share complete registration information of registered entities with the Agency of Natural Resources and Department of Public Service for purposes of updating the greenhouse gas emissions inventory forecast.
Cool.
So then the other change that's in here is in section 4. And so as I mentioned yesterday, there is this tax department record sharing provision in the tax department statute. And so the commissioner may, in the commissioner's discretion and subject to such conditions and requirement as the commissioner may provide, including any confidentiality requirements of the IRS, disclose or return or information to the Public Utility Commission and the Department of Public Service, provided the disclosure relates to the fuel tax under 33 VSA Chapter 25 and is used for the purposes of auditing compliance with the Heating Fuel Seller Registry of 30 VSA Section 35. The commissioner shall at a minimum provide the names of any new business selling heating fuel in a given year, and any names of businesses that are no longer selling heating fuel. So this has been updated to strike the reference with clean heat standard and have it be just for the heating fuel registry.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, so and then there weren't any changes to the last few sections, which are the fuel tax report and then the deliberating fossil fuel report.
So can I ask, these two reports, how are they, and maybe it's not a question for you, but more for the chair, what is the difference between these reports? I know one of them's from tax and one of them's from the PUC, but would it contain the same information?
No.
Reading can help.
No, I mean, but isn't the commissioner of taxes collecting? Oh, I see. I just wonder what the purpose of the two reports are.
Yeah, so the tax report is all that data in, specific types of fuels. And the PUC's registry is for the names.
Oh, I see. I get it. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's not really the second report is asking for recommendations on how data can be collected effectively, practically.
Oh, you're talking about the last, are you asking about the last report in section 6?
Yeah, well, I thought that these were just asking the PUC and the tax department to report on what the data they've collected, but I see that the second one is different, as Ellen said, reading else.
Sorry, a lot has happened in the last minute. Yeah, so the fuel tax report is just asking the commissioner tax to report the aggregated data that is collected based on the fuel tax. And then the second report is asking the PUC to consult with the fuel dealers and figure out how to collect data on a town by town basis.
Yeah. So that it could be used for planning purposes, like we talked about. Yep.
Cool. Okay, so that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and thank you. That is great, and we've got a few other witnesses that we just want to check in with about this new language as it gets more honed. So, and I'm don't see Rebecca in the room yet.
Scheduled for 9:30.
Yeah, so I suppose we could just take a little break until then.
Okay.
Okay.
I assume you want that ASAP.
And
Yes.
Ellen might be back sometime later,
Oh,
maybe?
well, yeah, so hold on a second though,
Yeah.
but so I'm gonna make that change though that we discussed, updating just the reference to bulk fuel dealer. So I'll do that right now, but yes, I'm scheduled in-house environment, but I don't think it will take the full hour, so I would probably be back sometime around 11:30, 11:40, something.
Okay. So, one hypothesis is that we could vote this out today. Another possibility is that I do believe we have until tomorrow. But you don't have any availability tomorrow, Ellen, right?
My schedule's wide open tomorrow, so yes.
Oh, it's just wide open tomorrow. Okay. So, okay, well then, I always feel like giving things a little bit of more time is better. Are- I think, am I seeing that, I think I see Rebecca online. I mean, Senator Hardy, if you have stuff you gotta go do or whatever, like if,
No, I mean, I'm supposed to be here, so I will be here. I have other things to do, which I was gonna go do if we took a break, but.
well, since we've got Rebecca, maybe we can, keep going for now.
So either way, I'm gonna do that change right now, so you can have the updated version.
Okay,
If
amazing.
you need to vote on it, you can.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay. So if it's okay, maybe let's keep going since Rebecca is here. Is that all right, team?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Great. Hello. So, Jude, let me know when you're live.
We're live.
Okay, Rebecca Samaroff, welcome from the tax department. So our break is non-existent because you were here and it's awesome. So we'd love for your thoughts, particularly on the part of S65 that pertains to the tax department. And I have a couple questions for you, but I feel like I should let you take it away. Oh, also, maybe we should do a quick round of introductions because this is the first time you've been in this committee. Yes, right?
Yes.
So, Senator Hardy, would you start off?
Yep, hey Rebecca, Senator Hardy.
Senator Terry Williams from Rutland District.
Hello. We know
Scott
each other.
Walker from the Senate, Bennington Senate District.
Hey Rebecca, Scott Beck, Caledonia District.
And Jude Newman, our committee assistant.
Hi, Jude. And for the record, I'm Rebecca Samaroff, Deputy Commissioner of the Tax Department, and I'm really sorry I'm not there in person today. You know, not an uncommon story. I'm in a little childcare moment right now, so
Yeah,
have to be
I hear ya.
in the house while a friend babysits downstairs. So, but normally I would love to come and see all the new faces in person. So maybe we'll have another opportunity this session. But thanks so much for having us in. yeah, Chair Watson, happy to jump in with a little background and then just take the committee's questions if that works for you.
That'd be great.
Awesome. So I did post two attachments on your committee page under my name, and I'm also happy to screen share if that's helpful. But just heads up, the two things that I posted are just an example of our fuel tax form, just so folks could see the data that's collected for this tax type. And then also took the liberty of having one of our esteemed data team members just put together some summary data of what we can provide aggregate on the fuel tax. I know that there's been some questions over time about what the data we have is available. So just put together some examples there of the type of things we could show. So we could look at those together. Do you guys prefer screen sharing or just want to look on your devices?
Screen sharing would be great.
Great, cool. So maybe I'll share, and I say this with confidence, and then it always is like a little clunky, unfortunately. Let's do screen. Okay, bear with me 1 second here. All right, I think this one's gonna be good.
Yep.
You guys seeing a fuel tax form?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So we can just whip through this pretty quickly, but this is our tax form. You can see under the first fuel tax heading, this is new as of July of 2023. The legislature requested that we started collecting volume information on this form, which we were happy to do. So these lines break out the gallons of each of the types of fuel that are delivered by fuel dealers in Vermont. There's some aggregation in these next lines. Then this next section is for some of the other types of energy, like natural gas, short tons of coal, and lines for like the sales amount and tax generated from those. And then we have electricity down on lines 7A through 7C, both the megawatts, the sales, and the tax due on those. The rest of the form calculates a licensing fee that's based on that gallonage number, and it's just like kind of the signature information. So that's just to get a sense of where our data source is from. But then I'll flip over to this next page, which I'm sorry might be kind of small for you guys. And we usually share data in like a spreadsheet format, but I understand that posting Excel files can be tricky on the legislative page. So I took the liberty of making this a PDF, but that's more, old world data sharing. A data user could anticipate having a spreadsheet that they could work with. But here's just an example of the type of aggregate data that we can provide at tax, and we can do this. I'll give some kind of more background on our data sharing, but we're always happy, especially for another government agency, to share aggregate information like this. This is very in line with our confidentiality statute to report aggregate information on larger groups of filers. So this is statewide fuel tax return data. It's broken out by month, which you can see in this first column. In this data extract, we pulled out the number of filers for each of the types of fuel gallons delivered. So in this second column, I have the count of filers that are delivering propane in Vermont, and then the gallons of propane delivered in that month. And then we have the same rows for heating oil gallons, the count delivering kerosene gallons, count delivering dyed diesel with the dyed diesel gallons. And then this other count column is kind of the unique filers that are encompass those first four columns. So for these gallonage delivery categories, some filers might be delivering both propane and kerosene, for example. So this next count column just is reporting the unique filers in this group. So we're not double counting folks. And we also total all the gallons delivered here, in case that's interesting for anyone. And then the last three columns relate to the electricity sales. So both the megawatts, the sales number themselves, and the number of filers who are reporting this kind of business activity. And I did note on the bottom for the natural gas and coal deliveries, we don't have enough filers to report on that data publicly, which might be a good good segue into just kind of like talking about tax confidentiality stuff in general.
Sorry, Rebecca, can you say
yeah.
which column didn't have enough filers?
So I have a note at the bottom of this table, the natural gas and coal.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So
thank
folks
you.
that are engaged in that kind of fuel dealership, we don't have enough filers to report on, bumping up against our confidentiality provisions. So those are excluded here.
Use coal.
No, I don't. People do.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Go right ahead.
So I'm not sure if I understood the conversation a couple days ago about whether or not it's codified that you collect information by fuel type, or whether you just started doing that because somebody asked you in committee to do that.
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, Senator Hardy. And I believe that it was more the latter. I think there was a discussion of putting it in statute, and I can't remember if it ended up getting in statute or not. I'm kind of like waiting for my chats to light up with someone who has the answer. It's going to feed it to me right now, whether it was in statute or not. But it's like, overall, the commissioner has discretion to design tax forms that make sense for tax collection. And we, in this case, I believe what happened is that we were, happy just to add this breakout of the data fields. It didn't feel like it would be particularly onorous on the department or on our taxpayers who have to, calculate tax for each of these types anyway. It's like they have this information. So my memory is that we did this to, be good partners, and we're not compelled by statute to do it.
That makes sense. I totally would expect that from you, Rebecca, to be good partners. But I wonder, the chair, Senator Watson, we had talked about codifying it just in case there's a future. We can see your email, Rebecca, just by the way, you might want to chat. Just in case there's a future tax department that's less willing or excited to do this. Because I didn't see that in the draft.
Yeah, that's so I have a question around this particular part. So in the document, in the newest version of 65, there is a report that is that we're asking tax to come up with. And I realize we're kind of jumping ahead here. One hypothesis is that because of the things that are listed in that report, that it sort of necessitates that you are collecting that data. Do you think that, because we would love to, because I think my understanding is that we did not codify these changes. Like, yeah, the tax department should collect this data, and some future, tax commissioner couldn't change it, right? So do you think the report that is mentioned in 65 is a sufficient way to codify collecting that data, or do you think we should? I mean, we could be more explicit to say collect this data.
I think that is more than sufficient. We don't take changes to our tax forms lightly. It is a lift on our taxpayers, especially when we're encouraging electronic filing, and there's a lot of development work behind all the form changes. So it isn't like something that we mess with on a whim, So I don't anticipate rolling back any of the additional data fields under this commissioner or a future commissioner. I haven't had a ton of time actually to review the S65 most recent draft, but my understanding is that the request is for data that is aggregated, some kind of similar to what I've shown you today, or maybe different layout, but the same type of data, and no concerns with that from our seat by any means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it also like, yeah, I mean, I definitely have a preference not to have like, the design of our tax forms, like a precedent of that, like being prescribed in statute, because we absolutely have that authority and, are always, hoping
Mhm.
to, yeah, be able to share when practical and when it doesn't violate our confidentiality provisions, with which aggregate data rarely would.
Right. So do you think that being required to put out this report it shall include the aggregated data of volumes and types of heating fuel sold, including dyed and undyed, and the number of entities that paid. I mean, there's so much detail in that spreadsheet you just showed us. Like part of me wants to be like, oh, let's, be clear that we want all that data. But that would be a lot to try to even put in statute. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
even if we wanted
I mean,
to.
we
Yeah.
respond to data requests all the time from,
Yeah.
not just committees, but like individual legislators who are curious about this. We'd share this readily with JFO and have, yeah, it's like very, very much part of our normal transaction to be sharing data like this with the legislature and policymakers. So I think, yeah,
Yes.
having a report is plenty sufficient to ensure that those data sharing relationships continue.
Well, do you think that it ensures that the data collection will still happen?
Yeah, I think uh, barring like another direct mandate to change our fuel gross receipts form, there wouldn't be a reason for us to. Otherwise,
Okay.
like stability for our taxpayers is always the goal, especially with the amount of programming it involves on our side to make changes to a form.
I think I saw a hand from Senator Beck.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, Rebecca, just a couple of questions for you. One is, as I looked at that really detailed graph, it actually is a pretty small number of dealers that, are delivering fuel. I think 100, 120. How confident is tax that all of the fuel dealers that are selling heating fuel in Vermont are collecting and remitting tax? Or do you stumble across fuel dealers from time to time that are not, and you have to get them in compliance?
Yeah, I don't have firsthand information about our compliance activity around this particular tax type. As I know you're well aware, like for better or worse, national and state taxes are, based on voluntary compliance, like, mostly people understanding their liability and complying. Yeah, this industry is certainly not doesn't have like a reputation around compliance at the department, but I'd be happy to try to learn a little bit more from our compliance division about activity in this space. But nothing that's risen to my level as deputy about, particular concerns with this tax type.
Okay, and then the second question, would it violate confidentiality for tax to say, on an annual basis, these are the fuel dealers that have paid fuel tax to the state of Vermont, not with the amounts that they paid, but just to say, in a place the public could view or anybody could view that these are the entities that have paid this tax?
It would be pretty unprecedented it's not normal course of business or preference to be publicizing the names of taxpayers. Like that's pretty rare and has only happened, when we're compelled by the legislature, and generally, with a great deal of resistance, because that, as administering a mostly voluntary system, we really kind of like believe in the integrity of our data and the trusting relationship that folks are giving us all this sensitive information about their business activity, purely so we can administer the tax and collect the right amount of revenue for the state, and not because, we're part of a bigger, we prefer that there's not the impression that it's kind of like a mystery of what's going to happen to that information, what other, regulatory information it's going to be fueling, because tax compliance and making sure we have have that relationship with our taxpayers is kind of our paramount interest, and aligns with our mission. So it is, there's been in general, there are certainly carve outs in statute where we share confidential tax information with other government agencies. Those are, generally come with our reference to our confidentiality provisions right there in statute. The same, provisions and expectations that tax department staff are held to. We write up a contract with the receiving agency. So, the folks receiving that information, like in this example, like the name of the fuel dealers, would be subject to those and bound by those same confidentiality provisions, which can include monetary penalties and even imprisonment. So it's stuff we generally take very seriously, and when and it's very prescribed. And when we're sharing granular level data with colleagues in another department, we have them sign those same confidentiality provisions.
Okay, do you read, I'm not sure if you have this language that we have, draft 4.3, Rebecca, but do you read this to indicate that transfer of the names of the dealers to the PUC, that's a confidential transfer, and that the PUC would be beholden to the same confidentiality rules that the tax department is beholden to, or would they be able to release, or how do you read this?
Which are you looking,
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand, is that, so the tax department has confidentiality rules.
right,
If they send a list of fuel dealers over to the PUC, how's the PUC gonna treat that information? That's what I'm trying to get
are
at.
you looking at bottom page 20?
I don't know what I'm looking at, I'm just trying to understand what would happen in that situation. Is the PUC beholden, or then?
They're not doing that. They,
Tax isn't giving them the names to the PUC?
no, the PUC is collecting the data from the fuel dealers themselves. They have to register with the PUC.
Right, but then they're checking that list against taxes list to check, to make sure that registration has occurred.
Well, that's why I'm asking if you're looking at the language on the bottom of page 20, because I think that this is the commissioner may.
Yeah, at the bottom of page 20, the bottom of
The
page.
commissioner's discretion, it's a may.
Sorry, yeah, and I'm catching up here too. So, so we're describing, and sorry, it's taking me like a minute to find this latest draft. As drafted, you're saying that the department has a granular data sharing relationship with the PUC, so the PUC can see the names of
That's right.
fuel dealers. Yeah, in that case, and this is not like unprecedented for us to be sharing fuel dealer data with that entity. And yes, that would be accompanied by a data sharing agreement that reference our confidentiality provisions and related.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So it sounds like there would be a confidentiality.
Right, and that they would work it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. I want to go back. I feel like Rebecca, we sort of interrupted you with some questions. I don't know if you had more that you wanted to share specifically, either about the bill, or about that tax section, or anything else.
No, this is great, and I apologize for not being as up on the latest draft. I definitely, wanted to make sure that the committee was comfortable with the understanding of the type of data that we do have available, and that it's available to you anytime.
Great.
Yeah, and I will, if you don't mind, I'll just respond. I'll reach out to you guys in writing if additional things come up in a more fine-tooth review of the language here. But
yeah,
I think I understand this now.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Samaroff? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And thanks for all your work. Okay. See you. Okay, so next, let's see. Oh, we are up to Mr. Coda, which I think I saw Matt coming in and out of the room at one point. Oh, he's here. Okay. Hello, welcome.
Thank you very much. For the record, Matt Goda with Meadow Hill. On behalf of a number of entities, most likely in this scenario, Vermont Fuel Dealers Association, representing retail heating oil propane companies. Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go right ahead. I mean, just to maybe preface this a little bit, very interested in just, having had your testimony from, gosh, was that yesterday, a couple days ago? Would love to just hear what you think about this new draft. Does this, do you think this works?
I do not think it works. I think the problem that we have is the amendment, with all due respect to my friends that supported the clean heat standard through its passage over the last 4 years. What this amendment does is repeals the stuff that is not going to be enacted, and it alters what is already in place. It doesn't fix the fundamental problem, which is we have two completely different data sets. What does the tax department collect from us on the 25th of the month? How many gallons of propane, kerosene, dyed diesel, and heating oil are sold to our customers for end use? What the registry, and I have a copy of the only existing registry collected by the PUC. It's all publicly available. What that collects is the carbon molecule when it crosses into Vermont from New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Quebec, or New York. And then it counts it again when it is resold, and then 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 when it is ultimately consumed. Everything from a 16-ounce canister to the biggest fossil fuel provider, a wholesaler in Burlington. The registry is broken. It's collecting the wrong data set. They are not going to match up. And with no enforcement and no requirement, you're gonna have an empty sheet. Let's get it right.
Can I interrupt you? I apologize. We tried to address that in a couple of ways. One was by limiting, like accepting or exempting. Right now it says canister, like if you sell it in quantities less than 5 gallons or something. I'm not looking exactly at the language, but it's if the maximum amount you sold was 5 gallons or less. But we just prior to your testimony, we talked with Ellen about changing that to folks who do bulk deliveries. And so I'm anticipating that we'll have that in a draft coming perhaps today even. And then the second thing was that because part of the registry language said sold into or in Vermont, and so we struck the into Vermont because we recognize that it's not about like where it it's not about the importers. It's about just who's selling fuel oil, who's selling these heating fuels in Vermont. So sorry I just want to make sure that you had seen that, and maybe that still doesn't work, and that's that's still very interesting. I just want to make sure that you knew that part.
I appreciate that. Yes, the issue is, are we trying to count the gallons sold to the end user? If so, then we should copy the language currently in statute under Title 33, Section 2503, which says bulk delivery to the end user, not sale for resale. And then you are going to get the numbers that you just showed on the screen.
That's the part.
But unless you do that, you're gonna see numbers and any reasonable statistician is gonna look at it and go, well, these numbers are not even close. I'm just telling you what you're gonna see a year from now. if in fact we had any enforcement ability at the PUC, we're often derisively considered unregulated. Oh, all you people are unregulated. We are the most regulated businesses in Vermont. Yes, they don't regulate the price, but we are regulated by the Department of Fire Safety, regulated by the Agency of Human Services, which controls our price that we sell for fuel systems, regulated by the Department of Tax, regulated by the Office of the Attorney General for our contracts and for CP 111, regulated by the Department of Public Service. The only one entity that doesn't regulate us for us since 2023 is the PUC. And they have, all due respect to the PUC, no idea of the universe of people selling heating fuels in Vermont. Liquid heating fuels. All the other entities in Vermont do.
Okay.
If you could pick the worst entity to regulate the fuel dealers, it would be the PUC.
Sorry, yes, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see your hand there earlier, Senator Hardy. Go ahead.
No, that's okay, I just had enough. So, Mr. Coda, it would be helpful if you suggested language based on what the current draft is. You referenced Title 33.
Section
2503. What, can you look at, do you have the draft? Can you pull up this draft on your computer?
Okay.
Thank you. How odd that this is in Title 33. But which language do you think we should mimic in this draft and where in this draft in order to make sure that we're getting the same data?
So in order to capture the data of those that sell not for resale, delivered in bulk to the end users.
Yeah,
It's the fuel tax data.
okay, so that's what I wanna make sure that we have in the draft, this draft. Because there, as Senator Beck pointed out, there are problems with the data sharing between the tax department and the PUC. They can't share a complete data set. So we want, even though it's collecting the data potentially twice, and you can make that argument, fair, but we have to, because we wanna have that data. How can we update this draft in order to collect the data? Is it just referencing this, do you think? Or do you want to use the exact phrase that you were just saying repeatedly?
The exact phrase, the exact citations gets you to the same data set, but the fundamental problem is the Public Utility Commission is the wrong entity to collect it.
Okay, so that maybe we could have a conversation about, but right now I just wanna get the language correct. And then maybe we can talk about who you think should collect it, okay? So where, if you can look at the draft with us, that would be helpful. I'm assuming it's in paragraph B.
So your draft,
Yeah,
4.3.
4.3 from this morning.
I'm not sure where, I know what to take out,
Okay,
I'm
so
not sure
what,
where to insert.
do you, I mean, would it be helpful to give you a little time for you to come back to us with potential language?
So. I have 5 gallons at a time.
Yeah, so this, we're gonna change that. I think Ellen didn't understand that we wanted to take that out, so
It's
it's gonna be
bulk delivery.
more bulk delivery.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so then you could reference,
okay,
if you referenced that, but then reference the title. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that would get you to the same data set.
okay, we can ask Ellen.
The title,
She is a lawyer.
can you clarify which title you think ought to be referenced there?
So. Under Title 33, Human Services, Chapter 25, Home Weatherization Assistance Program, site is 33 VSA 2503. The imposition of the retail sale of heating oil, propane, kerosene, and other dyed fuel delivered in Vermont at a rate of 0.02 a gallon.
Yeah, I have it, and I can talk to Ellen about it and see what she thinks.
The other issue with the language is that it refers to, let me say, I'm happy to participate in any study regarding how we can get data.
Now you're talking about a different part.
This section,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
The the heating fuel that both dyed and undyed is not, that makes sense.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I think that tax
difference
does
between-
collect that though.
Between dyed fuel and undyed fuels, the difference is a gallon of diesel fuel, one is used in a vehicle with a green plate. And one is used with a
Yeah.
vehicle that doesn't have a green plate. That's what that means.
Oh.
So for reasons that predate me, I've been in the building 21 years. They assess a fuel tax to support low income weatherization on buses and snowplow trucks and tractors and train engines. All the dyed fuel they use. So when you see the Amtrak going by, that's supporting low income weatherization. That was a decision made in 1990, and we are still living with.
That's those things take the dyed fuel.
Yeah, so
Okay.
dyed fuel they dye it red to indicate that they should not be assessed the excise tax on transportation. That's why that's
Dye, that is so
so
weird.
red dye. So when the DMV pulls you over,
You
in
better
your
red
diesel
dye.
car, your diesel truck, no, if you have red dye in your tag, you're a tax cheat.
Yeah.
You are violating both IRS and state tax code, and there are significant fines. If
Interesting.
you've ever pulled up in a diesel truck and go, that diesel's so much cheaper than regular diesel, I think it must be the same. The reason it's dyed red is the tax, and if you get caught, there are severe penalties, but it is the exact same product, minus the dye.
Got it.
I thought the green was ultra low sulfur.
The green is the handle,
Yeah,
to
but the
distinguish it
the
from,
fuel is different, like in my tractors, the new tractors have a clean burn system, you have to use the low sulfur.
Senator Williams brings up a very important point, however, Senator Williams, we changed that law. We changed that law to require all fuel, including heating oil and dyed fuel, to have the same ultra low sulfur, 15 parts per million sulfur content. So that was the old way, you're correct. You've been driving a tractor longer than I have, but the new way is that all of it that we sell has to be ultra low sulfur. Not about carbon, it's about nitrous oxide in the air, sulfur dioxide, PM2.5 emissions. So you feel good about your tractor burning cleaner diesel than you did 20 years ago.
Well, seems like a digression maybe, but so you were talking about the report.
Therefore, just the document that is just a thing, just say heating fuel.
Which, oh, right here, so, okay, on the fuel tax report. Okay.
I think it's trying to, I think it was answering,
Types of heating fuel sold and the number of entities that pay. And just get rid of the including dyed and undyed, is that what you're suggesting? Just
And-
what you're suggesting,
heating fuels.
okay,
Yep,
Got
and we're keeping the volumes in there. Yeah, so just eliminating, including dyed and undyed.
correct.
And then we're good. You have, do you have any other suggestions for that particular section?
No, I don't, Chair.
Okay.
So the broader concern is the Public Utility Commission is ill-equipped. No offense to my friends, the Public Utility Commission, to collect this information on who these entities are and how many gallons they sell. And then
Who should collect it, who's never clear it's in
We should be throwing it.
the department would be a much better place to collect information.
The who now?
Under public service.
Yes, but of course, I can already hear Mr. Johnson saying something to the screen right now. But
Not here.
the Public Utility Commission just was never the right fit. And I think there is some adherence to the idea that the Public Utility Commission is because they want heating oil, propane, and kerosene to be just like electricity. But you're never gonna be like electricity.
Sorry, can you explain why the Public Utility Commission is not a good fit?
I think there is a desire to regulate heating oil, propane, and kerosene sales like natural gas or electricity. Those are regulated monopolies. We are a competitive industry, highly regulated, but not in the same way that the Public Utility Commission regulates those with fixed pipes, poles, and wires. And there's a role for them to do that, and it's important that they're there for that. This is not as we learned, this economic odyssey, which created this report, not repealing this report. report exists. It will always exist. And what we learned from it is that they are ill-equipped to handle an industry like ours. That's not to say we should be regulated, we are heavily regulated. We just picked the wrong regulator. This is consistent with my testimony over the last 5 years. Roll the tape.
Okay, so your suggestion is the public service department.
Something other than the Public Utility Commission.
Well, that. We gotta pick somebody. The public service
The
department,
tax department's the most obvious answer. We also heard.
but they have, they can't really solve the issue.
So you're supposed to remain.
Yes. I don't know what I'm gonna say now.
Good timing.
Like 1 minute, I don't know what that's saying.
You're just getting thrown under the bus. This is fun.
You know, I'll admit that.
Thank you. I mean, I don't want to cut you off if you have more to say. But this is helpful. And well, good to know you're thinking about like who should be collecting that data, and we can chew on that. And to be continued for now. But if you do have, like any red line edits for us, like that's welcome. So keep us posted.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've been good enough, thank you, seems to make a comment. My hope is I try to, the purpose of the registry, as I understand it, is to capture a fuel dealer that is not in compliance with the fuel tax. Right, so we can get the whole set of people that are out there selling heating fuel in the state of Vermont. Those numbers of fuel dealers that Rebecca showed us is very small group of businesses. This is not like the sales tax where you have, I don't know, 30, 40, 50,000 businesses that are remitting the sales tax. I mean, if I was a fuel delivery person and I was not collecting and remitting the fuel tax, why would I sign up for the fuel dealer registry? That would make no sense.
To comply with one thing but not the other.
Right, I mean, you would just think, why would you comply with the fuel dealer registry, knowing that if you do, the tax department's gonna come knocking on your door and like, hey, where's all the fuel tax you collected for all this stuff? So, I mean, if there is a gap here, it really should be part of tax department compliance. I just don't see the world where somebody says, yes, I'm selling all this and announcing to the world that, but I haven't been paying the fuel tax. They're not gonna do that.
But I think, I don't know if we're doing discussion right now.
That's true. I think that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
We have time.
Well, just cause I think that the registry is for, compliance, but it also serves another purpose, which is to have more granulated data about the sale of fuel and where it's being sold.
Okay, now if that's the purpose, then we can do that.
I think, and that's part of why there's this follow-up report about, is there a way to get it by location and how can we do it in a way that is helpful, yes, for tax compliance, but also for planning purposes and for, even Matt said it would be helpful to have the data a little bit more to make sure his data is correct.
I'm fine with the report on the granular.
So I think that the registry serves a purpose more beyond tax compliance, because if it were just tax compliance, great, I would say maybe we give Department of Tax a person to do more audits or whatever, that's the whole purpose.
Let's say the report comes back and it says, we can't break this out by zip code or municipality or whatever. Does the fuel dealer registry at that point go away?
I don't know, I mean, I think we have to see like what kind of data we get, how is it useful? I mean, I think we've all sat around this table and said, hey, data is helpful if we're trying to figure out a way to reduce the use of something or expand the use of something or help something. Just having good data that's in a form that is specific enough that we can, people who are smarter than us can play around with it and figure it out would be helpful.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this? Oh yes, go ahead, Senator Williams.
So I guess, I don't know, we don't use intent statements in there, but I think that maybe to clarify it, we might want to put a paragraph in there why we're doing it.
About the intent of the registry?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I think that could be, yeah, perfect. That could be
Perfect.
helpful. Yeah. Gonna make a note of that. Yeah, fair enough. And just so you all know, team, I think at this point, I'm not anticipating trying to vote this out today. We have some flexibility to do it tomorrow, so we still have a little bit more time to keep editing, which is all right. Yes, Senator Williams.
A clarifying question, going back to the check back on, for the lead act, I thought it wasn't supposed to affect the transportation sector.
Sorry,
Now,
can
from
you
the I just got about the dyed fuel versus regular fuel.
That is not about the Affordable Heat Act.
Right.
That's been in law since
Okay.
1990, and that is about the low income weatherization. It's a different program.
Yep, thank you for answering that, Senator Hardy. You all glitched there for a second, so I didn't hear your question, Senator Williams. So, but question's been answered?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Amazing. Okay, so all right, and I see we do have Mr. McNamara here. Welcome.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, and so we're particularly interested in your thoughts on this new draft, the new sections. We know we're aware of your thoughts and feelings about the prior portions, but just about this new section, if you have any thoughts, that'd be great.
Yeah, so for the record, Ed McNamara, Chair of the PUC. I'm actually just gonna start off. So just saw this language this morning on the way over, and it's incredibly concerning that a bill that significantly modifies the $50+ million a year that Vermonters send to Efficiency Vermont, Burlington Electric Department, is having last minute modifications. They're pretty significant modifications as well. We had concerns about the budget. Maybe the edits address them. I honestly don't know. Because we just saw it this morning, because the language just came out this morning. So the process about changing 25 years of sort of precedent and policy around the EEUs in this manner is we're very worried about the haphazard way that this is being done. So I'll just be really brief. The bill still raises significant policy concerns. We still think that the cost to Vermonters is significantly outweighed by any benefits that the bill may have. So we have not had time to actually look at the language at this point.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Ed. I would love for you to actually look at the draft, because I think you're specifically talking about the original S65 part, not the S60 part that got added on, right? The stuff, the efficiency Vermont, efficiency utilities.
So I am aware that some pieces, I think there's a repeal of clean heat, there's modifications to the registration.
Yeah.
Those are benefits, and they still don't outweigh the negatives associated.
Right, I hear you, so that's why, okay, so I think that the changes that were made in the most recent draft, and by the way, I mean, this is how committees work all the time, make changes to drafts, and then there's the whole other side of the building or floor of the building that works on it too, so.
I understand that. I've not seen sort of
Okay.
this level, I would suggest.
Okay, This is my first year on this committee, so I don't know. The draft page 8, which is basically just making a list of something that was already in paragraph form. Which I'll be honest, this was something I wanted, because like, it doesn't make any sense to have a list of something in a paragraph, like, let's make it a list. So it doesn't change it, it just
Yeah.
makes it a list, so if you would look at that.
Yeah.
And make sure, and then there was something that added back in something that was taken out, so it's adding back in existing law that had been taken out. And then just making it clear about what we meant about the sort of just and equitable stuff, and saying, hey, what we mean is we want low income people to pay less for their energy. So I don't think the changes are as big as they might look.
Mhm.
And so if you can spend time with it and actually let us know if they're as concerning as you think they are, just by, were you driving and reading at the same time in the morning? Okay.
If I can interrupt,
Come on.
if I can
Just
interrupt,
check.
I walk and read and run into things on.
Okay,
So,
that's-
yeah.
As long as it's a speed. Anyway, I just think that I hear you about broader, like, you don't like it to begin with, but the
Yeah.
changes that are in here from the last draft are mostly clarification and organization.
Yes, around S65, and then there's the whole piece about the registration that I,
Yeah,
like,
that's what you were
it's like
thrown under the bus
a
about.
little bit, yeah.
Matt doesn't want you to collect the data.
I'm perfectly good with that. I actually, we do not regulate fuel dealers in any way, so it is, without the clean heat standard, it is a little bit of a stretch to say that we ought to be doing this.
Who do you think should do it?
I honestly don't know, and that's partly why you have these conversations much earlier in the session. So,
All right, thanks.
great. Anything else?
if I can jump in, I just want to acknowledge that one of the parts that I know that you'll be interested in is on page, I believe it's page 7, which had been some how do I say this? I know this had been a part that was concerning, and so anyway, that's just to say that I'll be interested in your thoughts on this language. It contains the phrase about societal cost benefit, um, and so when you when you do have time, please let us know what you think about that, and I'll be very interested to hear that. And we do still have time. I'm not planning on voting this until tomorrow, and recognize that it is an awfully tight turnaround. So just want to acknowledge that. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Side note, there's a 5.1 version of this now on the website.
Yeah, we did, so 65?
5.1.
5.1.
Yes, on the
Alan
desktop.
changed
That one's already-
this morning.
Oh, actually, I've not seen that one then. Okay,
Yeah, she made a couple little changes.
okay, great, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And with that, team, we are done with our regular testimony for today. I would love to actually take a quick break and then come back and have a discussion about where we're at. Does that sound okay, team?
So, Madam Chair, I have to be in the House Natural Resources Committee at 10:40.
Okay.
Just so you know that.
Well, maybe if we can just like have a quick discussion now.
Okay.
Give me 1 second here. Okay. So things that feel sort of outstanding at this point on this bill. What are the pieces that either you're still feeling are unresolved, or you still have questions about, or yeah, just what is on your radar for this bill so far?
Well, I'll start. So for me, on the efficiency utilities, sections. I still have a lot of discomfort that. The PUC, the utilities, I think the PSD also, are telling us that this doesn't work for them.
Mhm.
That causes me makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then on the clean heat standard, I think we had a good conversation. I'm all for, if we can get to more granular data, so that this can be broken out on a town basis. I'm all for looking into that and seeing if we can do it. And I'm all for the PSD or whoever needs this information that tax has, I'm all for them having that information. I just really don't want to duplicate data submission and everything, if we don't have to. And I said, I think it would be very unlikely that somebody that's not paying the fuel tax would sign up for the fuel dealer registry. And so, that's just one time.
Thank you. Yeah. Other thoughts? Anything unresolved?
Well, I'll just say that, I think the issues that Mr. Cota has raised about who should do it is something we need to really get in clarity about. And we know what we're after for data, and I just want to make sure that I agree with, I think, with Senator Beck a little bit. We have to make sure that we're kind of honing in on what it is we're looking for, and that we're setting up the best mechanism to get there. But on the general part of the bill about adding, changing the way efficiency Vermont does business, I think that's a decision for us to make. And it's purely that's a policy decision. And sometimes different regulators don't want to go where we think we should go, and that happens. So I'm kind of like where we're headed with the bill. I'm glad we're waiting until tomorrow. And by the way, the whole thing about Mr. McNamara raised about being last minute. Well, anybody who's been in this building knows that this is the way this works. And we're doing the best we can. And we've actually taken a lot of testimony. I think we're being very thoughtful about this, frankly. But I'm glad we're giving it a little more time. We have just a couple things we need to work out.
Yep.
Well, next.
Yeah.
I agree with Senator Beck, but I'm still, I'm got a simple mind, and I'm still confused at what the purpose of this bill is. And hearing everybody that doesn't support it really concerns me. We got too many open questions about a lot of different issues in the bill. So I'd like to see everything pulled together. Like what you built tomorrow is a good thing. To see and actually go through the bill, paragraph by paragraph, so I understand the right order.
Can I jump back in for 1 second?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Be really great if Mr. Cota would give us exact language he's looking for. That would help. And if we had that soon.
Yeah.
We can just look at it and decide what to do with it. But rather than speak generally, I'd like to have exact language. So.
Yeah.
I think I agree with Senator Bongartz and Senator Beck on a lot of things, but I think having the data is useful. I think that Senator Williams' comment about maybe adding a purpose to what the registries would be helpful. And I think that we heard loud and clear. I continue to hear loud and clear from people that they want to get rid of the clean heat standard, this bill does that. And I think that, you know, you guys want that too, and I think that that's a really big thing that's happening in the bill. I also think that the bill's trying to be like, okay, if we're not gonna do the clean heat standard, what are we gonna do? And the levers that we can pull are limited. And so we're trying to pull a lever without spending more money, which is really hard to do. And
I'm willing to have a conversation within the general fund about what monies are being devoted to fund.
Wait, hang on a second. I want to make sure that Senator Hardy was able to finish your thought.
yeah, so I mean, if we wanna spend more money or look at different revenue sources, we can certainly have that conversation. And Senator Beck, if you're open to that, I'd be open to that as well. I think that given the sort of presumed state of the budget, I think trying to do I hate to say this, more with less or more with the same amount is what this is trying to do. And I'm totally new to digging into this level of granularity in energy policy, but I think it's a solid effort to try to to have a bigger impact on both energy efficiency, reducing on all of the energy efficiency, reducing the cost of the energy burden for especially low income Vermonters, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and trying to sort of have this win-win-win within the construct of what we have, and just kind of rearranging the deck chairs a little bit. And I agree with Senator Bongartz. This is how things work in this building. We have done due diligence. We've tried to hear from everybody repeatedly. And I and others have made a good faith effort of trying to get to what is the language that will work for you. And I think we've tried really hard to balance a lot of things in this bill, and that's really so that everyone feels heard and gets, you know, feels like we're moving forward together in a certain way. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks. And it's helpful to know sort of where, like, just what everybody's thinking at this point. And I am anticipating that we'll maybe make a few more edits to this before tomorrow, add an intent section, see if we can get some language from Mr. Coda. I am interested in the public service, the PUCs, thinking around that page 7 edit that I mentioned. And then I think this is a exactly as you were saying, Senator Hardy. I mean, I'm excited to use the money that we have to be more oriented towards climate work. I mean, that trying to state it simply, Senator Williams, you know, the purpose of the bill is to do more greenhouse gas reduction work, more, you know, climate pollution reduction work with the money that we are already collecting. So
should say that in there. But it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. Like, so you would maybe appreciate a purpose or an intent section for the whole bill.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, because that is what it's getting at, and I appreciate you know, that the you know, different entities that we've talked to have some policy choice disagreements with us. You know, hopefully we can. You know, we're at a place where it is just policy disagreement rather than like it doesn't work. You know, there's a difference there. So. Yeah, so I hear you about the registry business, trying to get that into a place where it is more functional for the purposes that we want. So
Going to,
yes, go right ahead.
I'm concerned about redundancies in titles, statutes that already exist. That as we go ahead, and I think that's legislative council's responsibility to make sure that those redundancies are not put in there. And but I haven't, I mean, like, Title 33, I didn't even know that that was an issue in a different title, so,
Mhm.
until we heard it, so that's why we get testimony, so we can eliminate, things in different titles that don't need to be there, too, so.
Yeah.
Hey, that's all I want to say about it.
Okay, great. Okay, super. So thank you, team. I think that is everything that we have for today. I'll be in touch with Ellen about some of these further edits, and we'll be looking at a new draft tomorrow for a vote. Okay.